Coming up on the show today, want to run Dungeons and Dragons? Someone's got to. Also, Daggerheart's Amazon conspiracy? Maybe. Also, new D&D stuff, and I didn't write anything else to the intro because I forgot. So here we go.
Are you ready to get casual? Grab your favorite adult beverage or combustible plant and join us for our roundtable TTRPG discussion. Oh yeah, it's time for Casual Friday. And now, here are your hosts.
Here we are. Hey, I'm Jim. That's Brad. That's Ryan. We are the Landlocked Warlocks. This is Casual Friday, and make sure that you do everything that the host said. Combust those plants and drink those beverages. So we've got a crap ton of stuff to get through on the show today. Lots of news. First of all, if you saw the thumbnail, you might be wondering, Wizards of the Coast is hiring a new lead designer and head of game ecosystem for D&D. It seems like they are definitely they're replacing Perkins and Crawford. I don't know exactly what Perkins and Crawford's roles were before, but this principal game designer seems like a more of a creative one. Act as the primary design voice for your products, providing vision, review, and iteration. So this is like executive producer. And then this game ecosystem one seems a lot more like about pie charts and spreadsheets, long-term vision, frameworks, and tools. So I don't know. What do you guys think? Do you guys want to run for president of Dungeons and Dragons?
Nope.
A much younger version of me would do it. Yeah.
I had a nice conversation with Tyler from the Bard's College, and he made a great video, which was essentially his not his resume so much as his cover letter, his pitch to take this position. And damn, there were some ideas in there. I was just like, I hope no one is watching this from WotC because this is evil.
So the second job, just what was the second one called?
Head of game ecosystem.
Ecosystem. So is that somebody that's actually going to take the pulse of the fan base? Is that part of that job description? Because that's what they need.
Yes, no, and yes. It says own the rules roadmap. That's very interesting language. I don't know what that means. Ensure mechanical consistency and interoperability between. This is all just blah blah blah. Deliver value, low hanging fruit, synergy.
Scalability is in there.
Scalability, vertical
Align.
scalability. Horizontal alignment across vertical scalability is going to be
internally and
fruit
externally.
we embrace.
TPS reports.
Did you get that memo? So I don't know what else to say about this, other than, whoever gets these jobs, I hope deserve them and keep the interest of the community at heart and not just increasing shareholder value. So
it sounded a bit like the Spartan, may you live in interesting times, sort of blessing curse.
Blessing curse.
I hope whoever gets this job deserves it.
I didn't mean it that way, but it could absolutely, double entendre that. So moving on, speaking of jobs in the industry, Chaosium has got a new CEO. Mike Merles is leaving. Mike Merles is go. Chaosium makes Cthulhu, right? Called Cthulhu. Mm-hmm. And he's going to Asmodee. It says it in here.
Yeah.
Who make some Star Wars tabletop games. They make
everything.
A ton.
Yeah,
they make a bunch of stuff.
They make a ton of stuff because they remember we were talking about tariffs. This is one of those companies that's been gobbling up smaller companies, and now with the whole tariff thing, everybody's kind of expecting them to keep gobbling, right? They're apparently this company based in Europe has a lot of financial backing. So they bought Fantasy Flight. I forget the name of the company that owned Catan. They bought several smaller gaming companies, and they've been kind of reorganizing and rearranging all these smaller companies that they've purchased into this big old gaming conglomerate. So the fact that they're hiring Mike Merles makes me wonder if they're going to try to get into role playing. games, because right now they've got a lot of big board games thanks to buying Catan and Fantasy Flight, and they've got the hottest games in strategy games that aren't Warhammer based stuff. So they've got Star Wars Legion, Star Wars Shatterpoint, Marvel Crisis Protocol. Asmodee is big.
Well, Merle's worked with Magic the Gathering for years, so maybe it's more card related.
That could be it too. Yeah,
it could be. We don't
What's
know.
interesting to me, he's staying involved to work on RuneQuest, which is something I haven't looked at in a long time, but I remember enjoying the world building. And he's making his own thing too. So like Mike Merles is a busy man. He's doing a lot of things.
Well, to the speculation that if Asmodee wants to get into role-playing games, are they hiring Mike Merles because they want his role-playing game?
Oh, yeah, that could be.
That, because I mean that would be like a switch in the trend, right? Like a lot of these role-playing games that we're getting nowadays are crowdfunded, right? But Mike Merles has a extensive resume, so he may have just landed him a job that's going to fund his RPG for him.
Yeah, interesting.
Because there's like non-compete clauses that are different levels of binding, and then there's working for 3 companies at the same time who are doing the same thing. It seems like a lot. I don't know. It doesn't quite mesh with my understanding of how business works. But what do I know?
Yeah, it seems like he's not leaving Chaosium on bad terms if he's going to be continuing to work on some of their projects. We don't know. Our official position here at Casual Friday is that times are changing and the wheel keeps turning. And that's really all we can say for sure about that. Moving on, I've got a game for these guys. They don't know what it is. I just came up with it the other day. So here's a game. This is Fake or Real. These are 8 role-playing games, tabletop role-playing games. 4 of them are fake, 4 of them are real. What do you think?
Gosh.
4 fake, 4 real.
I know one of them, so should I abstain from pointing that out, or should I point that out immediately?
Well, if you feel like you know one.
I know for a fact that Bunnies and Burrows is real.
I was going to say, yeah, Bunnies and Burrows is real. I'm almost 100% on that.
So we've got 2 votes for real.
Yeah, Watership Down Fantasy.
Okay. Anything else?
I want to say Realms of Everlore is real.
Okay.
Even though that sounds like a really good name that Jim came up with.
I want to say fake. That sounds like one of those like mobile phone games that the cutscenes are awesome, and it's really just the thing it's just a clicker. You just push the buttons and collect coins or
99
something.
cents for 1,000 Everlore gems.
Jim, I love you, but I don't think you made up human occupied landfill, because that's just too gonzo to.
Gotcha.
I agree. I was going to say real to that one too, because it's too ridiculous to be fake.
Okay.
Right. I don't know exactly how to. I want Necronautilus to be real. And if that's fake, then I say that's the next project we work on.
All right. Huh? Yeah. Just to be divisive, I'm going to say that one's fake. Just to be contrary to Ryan. And I'm going to call Starlight Drifters as real, because that sounds cool.
That does sound cool.
What do you think on Starlight Drifters?
We got to dunk on a couple. So I'm going to say Obsidian Covenant. It's hard though, because it's like they're so like the Serpent's Coil, Obsidian Covenant. I put in the same basket of like fantasy novels that I saw at a thrift store once. I'm going to say fake for both of those. What's my tally here?
Yeah, I was just looking. I think I've already called 4 real ones here. I got Starlight Drifters, Bunnies and Burrows, Human Occupied Landfill, and Realms of Everlore.
All right, so Spawn of Bashan. I don't think. I mean, I'm gonna say that's fake. That might be a fantasy heartbreaker that like no one told them, hey, don't include your nonsense word in the title.
Okay, so Serpent's Coil.
I think that means that one has to be fake because we've already called our 4 reels, right?
Both of you.
Yeah, because it would be like semicolon Ouroboros Rising or something. It wouldn't just be Serpent's Coil.
Okay. Are you guys ready? Ready for the reveal?
Yeah, let's do it.
My body is ready.
The top 4 are fake. The bottom 4 are real.
Okay.
Okay.
Necronautilus is a great name. Unfortunately, it's already taken.
Damn. I gotta check it out now. Hey,
So what-
chat. Anybody know anything about Necronautilus? Is it an undead? Phil's a
Yeah.
fan.
What is Necronautilus about? I want to know now.
I don't know.
It's like Thousand Leagues Under the Sea, but everybody's dead. Like zombie pirates. I don't know.
Those sound like good games.
I'm down. Twinstill's making fun of me because I am working on my own thing and working with somebody else on a game, which is him. But that's only 2 things, not 3 things, and none of those are under corporate charters. I'm an LLC technically, but it's different.
Okay.
There's no shareholders.
Moving on. I noticed some very interesting things going on with Daggerheart on Amazon this week. Last week we talked about how Daggerheart had sold out within just a couple of days from Daggerheart's store, and then last week they're saying you can still get it on Amazon. Well, apparently it sold out on Amazon earlier this week, like Monday or Tuesday. And so because I'm an author, I know some things about how the back end of Amazon publishing works. So I wanted to share some inside info. You get the real scoop here on Casual Friday. So first of all, I took this screenshot on Wednesday, and you can see it's listed as, you got that orange bestseller tag up here. In the author community, we call it getting orange tagged. And then over here, you see it's free for Prime members, but it's out of stock. So it was out of stock on Wednesday. And this is really interesting, which I'll talk about in a minute. One review.
Sus.
Within 1 day after release, it had 1 review. Now, check this out. So this is fantasy gaming. This screenshot I took on Wednesday. It's #1 in fantasy gaming. And then also it was 81 in the entire Amazon store. Now, let me talk about that for a second, because that's a bigger deal than you might realize. There are approximately 10 million books for sale on Amazon. And that means out of all 10 million books, this is the 81st ranked book out of all the books. That includes like Stephen King.
Only 2 behind Potty Time with Bean.
Yeah, Potty Time with Bean is huge. We know this. So that's 81 of the entire store. Now, here's one thing. Now, the sales rank shifts all the time because there's so many books. There's not a way to exactly say if you're this rank, you're selling exactly this many books. There are apps out there that guess, but they're all just guessing. But what this does mean is that to enter the top 100, you need to be selling a minimum of 2,000 copies of your book per day. And that's the numbers from a few years ago. It's probably closer to 3,000 or 4,000 now. Copies per day. But so something else here, this is current. This is how it is right now. Let me go and refresh so you get the absolute most current one. See, there's still 4 reviews. But one thing I wanted to point out down here is the bestsellers rank. It's currently 146 in books. So between Wednesday and Friday, it slipped from 81 to 146. And you might be thinking, well, if it's out of stock, how in the hell could it be a bestseller anyway? The way that Amazon bestseller charts work is your rank is today's sales plus half of yesterday's sales plus a quarter of the day before that sales plus a 16th of the day before that. It does that to prevent huge spikes. Like otherwise you could game the system and go, everybody buy my book exactly on this day, and we'll spike it up into the top 100, then it'll get hugely visible. So it measures, it has a more bell curve to the sales rank to prevent big spikes, but it also means that if you continue to sell, you get automatic, like a self-generating staying power, because your rank compounds, your sales compound. So it could sold 0 copies in the last 2 days, but still be number 146 in the entire store based on how well it was selling on Tuesday, on Monday, on Sunday, on Saturday before that. Does that all make sense?
Yeah.
Mhm.
But then the other thing, so let me talk about the reviews because this is the really interesting thing. So, as an author, reviews are incredibly important for any book. If you go live with no reviews, people will look at your book and go, nobody likes it. Now, of course, it's unrealistic to expect a whole bunch of people to have read your book and leave a review on day one, but that's how readers are. So, you gather a whole bunch of people before your book goes live, you give them your book, and you say, when it comes out, leave a review. So, the fact that there's only 4 reviews here, and even more interesting, only one of them is an American review. The other 3 reviews are all from Canada. I submitted a review on Wednesday. It was 48 hours ago and it hasn't been approved yet. Now, to me, based on my inside knowledge, this means that people are review bombing Daggerheart. Because when you submit a review, it gets bot reviewed for keywords and stuff, and then it looks at your previous review history and if you've had any strikes before for like review bombing stuff. So the fact that I've submitted a review 48 hours ago, and it usually only takes about 6 hours to approve a review, 6 to 12 hours, means that they've held up and they're probably manually reviewing every single Daggerheart review that comes through, which I think that's interesting.
Hmm.
What do
So
you guys think?
so putting all that together, it adds up for in your mind to um it's getting review bombed.
I can't say that for sure,
But
but
that's your best guess based on the evidence.
yeah, in my experience, I've seen this happen before.
Yeah. Interesting. And of course, I guess then we could speculate as to all sorts of possible reasons why it's getting review bombed, right?
Would they do it? I want to be careful here because critters are a volatile folk.
Really?
Is it possible that a review bomb, like in the opposite direction, like an inflated, all the critters showed up before they purchased books, were like, we love everything that these people touch. This is 5 stars. Would Amazon be like, this is screwy because we have more reviews than copies sold so far? Or like you've pre-ordered the book, you don't have it in your hands yet. Like could it go the other way? Would that trip some sort of fail safe? I mean, I know there are Critical Role haters out there too. There are people who are like there are haters, and then there are just like even like neutral people who like have some sort of weird sense of pride that they've never engaged with it because it is such like a lightning rod of a thing, which is all very strange to me. But I guess that's how nerds operate.
Yeah,
Um,
it's certainly possible that that a flood of reviews might have just flagged the bot to stop processing them. You know, if they had, because clearly this book just you don't normally see a lot of game books in the top 100 on Amazon. That itself is pretty rare. So if they'd had a big flood of reviews, but interesting, if you just search for Daggerheart, you'll see there's a few copycat books, and some of these already have reviews too. But these are all like look at 1 star. People are like, I thought this was Daggerheart.
Oh
hmm,
God.
This is gonna get pulled. This is
the
gonna
rulebook guide.
Darrington
the
Press needs to do
guide
something
the
about
guide to the
this.
guide of Daggerheart. What's interesting, and actually Phil just mentioned it too, these guys have like a pretty good working relationship with Amazon considering they have produced a show with them. I
That
mean, I'm
is true.
sure there are silos between like the book publishing review queue
Yes.
side of things and Amazon Prime animated series, whatever, but like you would think they'd have some sort of clout pull.
Well, I mean, Critical Role's relationship with Amazon is probably whoever is managing that has no idea who has no contact with whoever runs the Darrington Press publishing account. This tells me they don't have an Amazon rep, which is once you sell enough books, you get a rep, which is like your personal customer service person, and they would have fixed the review thing already, and also pulled these books down because this is clearly not okay according to the terms of the Darrington license.
But they have all sorts of like graphic novel, manga adjacent. Like, this is not Darrington Press's first foray into publishing. I'm sure. Like, can you click on their like the author page? Oh, it's not Darrington Press. I guess Mercer. Yeah,
So
I
we
wonder
got
if maybe it's
Spencer's.
his first. Yeah, but see, only 21 on Candela Obscura too seems low. I mean, I know that didn't really have a big impact, but people had opinions.
Yeah.
I've experienced a lot of reviews.
Here's another behind the scenes thing. When you publish a book on Amazon, you can type whatever you want in the author field. It doesn't matter. It's just a text field.
Hmm.
Yeah, so that's how you write with pen names. You can just write whatever you want. They could write Spooser Stirk, and Amazon wouldn't know Spooser Stirk from Spencer Stark.
But that would be. But if they had what did you call it? The manager, the representative,
A rep, yeah.
rep. Yeah. So if they had so the rep wouldn't be contingent on the author name, right? It's the rep would be contingent on the
The
company.
account.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah. I don't know. I don't know what's going on with this. It's interesting. We might. It could be that like Ryan suggested, just an increase in reviews caused the bot to trip, and somebody's going to have to go, uh-oh, let's flip it off and back on, and then all of a sudden Daggerheart will have 75 reviews tomorrow.
Yeah.
That's happened with my books. I've had people, like I was talking about before, I have a review team. I give them the book, they leave a review on day one, and most of them will email me as soon as the review goes live to prove that they've done it, and sometimes they submit a review and it takes a while, especially if you review a lot. Amazon finds that suspicious if you review a whole bunch, so they consider each reviewer's behavior too.
So that would make sense then, if just on the sheer popularity of Daggerheart, like there's just a boatload of reviews that are pouring in, and Amazon might push the pause button, being like, "What's wrong with this? Why are we getting so many reviews? This book can't be this popular."
Yeah, could be.
And it simply is, because critters and YouTube, and I know YouTube's, all of content creators are blowing up with it. I mean, Jim's already done like 4 videos on Daggerheart.
I got more on the way. More on the way.
I thought 4 was an exaggeration, but Jim's not reacting, so maybe that's accurate.
All right, so let's move on and talk about some Dungeons and Dragons stuff, because earlier this week, the folks at WotC put out Borderlands Quest: Goblin Trouble for International Day of Play. The mission of International Day of Play is to emphasize the importance of play for children, their social and economic development, and create opportunities for safe and accessible places to play. June 11th has been recognized by the United Nations as the International Day of Play to celebrate the universal right to play and accelerate global action to protect, promote, and prioritize opportunities to play. And they included an adventure for us. And the only thing I want to say about it, and then I'm not looking at him, but I can feel Ryan vibrating in his chair.
I'm okay. I'm
the
okay.
only thing I want to say about it is why. I can't find it now. Presto. Why, for like 3 or 4 adventures in a row now, it's just the D&D characters as the pre-mades. I don't think anyone under the age of 30 gives a crap about the D&D cartoon characters. Why do they? Are they just lazy? Anyway, Ryan, take it away. I know you've got thoughts. I'm sorry, what were you gonna say, Brad?
My speculation on that is they're trying to build brandable merchandise. Right? So, if they can make all these old cartoon characters popular again and make them like kind of the mainstay of D&D, right? Now you get Presto t-shirts and Bobby t-shirts and Hank t-shirts and Cavalier plushies or whatever, right?
Yeah. Ryan, tell us about the adventure.
Well, I just think that's a glowing example of why Brad should be the ecosystem analyst. What was the title? You can put me in your in your references, Brad.
All right.
Uh,
Okay.
this thing was so exciting and disappointing at the same time to me because one, I'm excited to see the new starter set because it feels like the first real piece of like 2024 content post core. We really haven't seen what the game feels like in the eyes of the people who made the game. Um, we're going back to Keep on the Borderlands, which is also exciting for a lot of reasons. This is that. This seems like it's teeing up all of that. Um, there's a lot of great advice in here. Like the things that they choose to call out to a new dungeon master feel smart and well reasoned. And then they provide a random map that isn't keyed. And the adventure itself, which is tiny, refers to keyed locations that don't exist. The first room, it took me a long time to parse if it was me being dumb. And hey, guys, I've read a few adventures. This is not the first adventure I've run. So it took me a while to be like, wait, where's the spider room? They walk into a room with spider. Oh, that's not on the map. Oh, this map has three entrances and egresses. Like where do we start? Okay, where we come upon these guys, they're hiding and having a conversation. Very cool design in that like these two characters, the bandits in here could be allies who are likely to double cross you. They could be just a drag down fight. You could gain a lot of information and get the drop on them. There's a lot of different ways that the whole thing can play out. I don't know where they are or where I am in relation to them, which is okay for me, I guess, as an experienced DM. Like, I like Theater of the Mind, especially at low level play, but like, it gave me a map, and I'm the brand new dungeon master. I'm a child. I'm a child in some, I don't know, third world country where you've airdropped this with the UN. Thank you. What? Put a number on the map, guys.
Yeah.
Like that's like Dungeon Design 101. Key the map.
Yeah.
So like, what a mixed bag of nonsense this was.
This map is from the sample adventures in the Dungeon Master's Guide.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just a generic map.
And
it's a good map. There's a lot of different circuits. It's a Dyson Logos map. He knows what he's doing. It's very, but the adventure doesn't correspond to it well or at all.
Yeah,
and
it's
it's
almost
weird.
It almost seemed as if they wrote it for Theater of the Mind and then they added in, because there's one part where it just says, and then they get to and then they reach the southeast of the map and they're gonna run into these guys. It's like written for Theater of the Mind, but then like there's no explanation what any of this is.
But it says, so that room that you're circling is referred to as 4B in the adventure, which feels like it's from an earlier draft where there was a different map associated with it, or maybe, but like the forge. Oh, also, there's a skill challenge in here, guys. Like, that's cool and exciting. There's a bunch of different like open-ended encounters in here. That's cool and exciting. Like, this is a great opening adventure that had too many cooks in the kitchen, I think, or like someone did a good job, and I have guesses of who was responsible for which part, but I'm pretty sure someone did a really good job making a starter adventure, handed it off to somebody else who made it worse, not better.
Yeah, like it just seems like it was kind of haphazardly thrown together. Like it was like you're saying, like the content is well written, but then whoever put it together to put it online kind of dropped the ball.
I think I know who it was.
There it is.
Slideshow Bob, new president of Dungeons and Dragons.
Yeah.
Ecosystem manager.
The Reiko system.
Yeah, that's a real missed opportunity. I hope they fix the map or fix the adventure or do one or the other.
Yeah, I mean, it's not that hard to fix the map. I mean, I could do that in Google Slideshow.
Yeah.
Just like
Gang, I might just do this under the fan content policy. Like, I might just fix this and I don't know, contact the UN. I don't know who you talk to about that, but
We must
Copy.
stop International Day of Play before it's too late.
Oh,
All right, so moving on to more Game Master advice, hopefully some better advice. Humble Bundle has the RPG Game Master book series. You can get, for a suggested $1, you can get Villains, Minions, and Their Tactics, plus Legendary Locations. For $8, you get the Game Master's Guide to Proactive Role Playing, which I'm holding up right here. This is fantastic. I love this book. You also get Legendary Dragons, and then for $15, you get everything. And I also have Traps, Puzzles, and Dungeons. This one is good. There's a one shot by Jasmine Buller in here that's excellent, excellent, excellent.
I have that one too.
I can't speak to any of the other ones, but if they're all edited by, wait, only some of these Jeff Ashworth. Okay, I see. Okay, they're not all by Jeff Ashworth, but I don't know. It's $15 for 11 PDFs of about 2,000 pages to add to your PDF collection in that folder on your hard drive you're not going to get to. Go add a couple hundred MBs to that folder just to make it a little bigger.
I feel
But
seen.
it also supports charity, supports breast cancer research.
Yeah. The books of these I've actually looked at. One of which I actually own. I've perused the rest, all of them, but I've perused some of them in Target, because these are carried in Target. And all this stuff looks good that I've seen so far out of this publisher. So
yeah, I highly recommend the Game Master's Handbook of Proactive Role Playing. Really good tips for how to build, how to do collaborative kind of storytelling in games, how to use player background to turn those into plot hooks. Really good advice on that kind of stuff.
Didn't you do a video on that book a while back?
I was going to. I wrote a script for it. I don't think I actually recorded it. I don't think I did. Maybe I did. I don't remember. I know I wrote a script for it. You know what? I wrote a script for it, and Ginny D put out a video, and I was like, "Crap!" on this book, and then I was like, "All right, I'm gonna have to wait 6 months." I can't put out a video a week after Ginny D on the same topic as Ginny D.
This is a little inside baseball, but half of our audience are, in fact, YouTubers. But that moment, because it probably would have done well to ride Ginny D's coattails, but I don't even know if it's ethics, but just vibes wise, it's all right,
Yeah.
I can't do that now. It's so weird, the competing incentives that we deal with here.
Yeah,
She did. Oh, Stephanie did too. I didn't see Stephanie's. Check that out. Friend of the show.
Well, now it's probably too late to ride the wave, so it's the time has passed now.
Well, now it'd be fresh.
Wait for it to become cool again.
Yeah.
All right. So moving on. Hey, you out there watching, thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. Are you subscribed to the Landlocked Warlocks YouTube channel? If you're not, you should be, because that's where a lot of awesome content is. Not just this show, but a bunch of actual plays that we do for the one-page, one-shot, and occasionally Daggerheart mini campaign club. And we also we made a role-playing game system called UDare, the Universal D8 rolling engine, and it's people seem to like it, so you should go get it. You can use it. It's a one-page rule system. You can use it to run anything. So I don't know. What are you guys up to? What do you got going on? Let's catch up.
Go ahead, Ryan.
I've been talking to a lot of cool people. Right now, I'm in the middle of releasing my conversation with Sean Four, a professional dungeon master. So I definitely put on my audience surrogate hat for some of that and asked him, how do you do that? Do you still enjoy playing D&D at all now that it's your job or whatever? And just a great dude. We had a lot of fun. Just before that, I posted the second half of my conversation with Tyler, the aforementioned person who applied for the open position at WotC in a way that scared me, but I think he should get the job. If not Brad, well, there's 2 positions now, so Brad should get the ecosystem one. And yeah, more cool talk show stuff on the way, and big projects that I'm not ready to talk about are always being worked on.
So I've been tinkering around with some Shadow Dark stuff. So that's where I've been spending most of my brain space lately. So
Cool.
That's a little sneak preview of what might be coming out.
And I've got more Daggerheart stuff coming out. I have got a video on Sunday coming out about countdowns, which I think are not to outsell it, but I think are the next big thing in tabletop role-playing games. I think it's just going to, I don't know, well, you'll see. I think it's a big deal, and I'm pretty excited about it. But now perhaps we should move on to our roundtable discussion. So let's talk about what you do at your table when someone isn't there. What do you do in the fiction? Because I've tried this many different ways. I've tried coming up with in-game reasons why characters leave. I've tried just hand waving it and saying, just not there. And I got to say different methods, different results, different tables. Some people don't care. Some people go, it's fine. Some people, if you say that, Galethriel is just not here right now, it completely breaks the fiction and the immersion for them, which I think is stupid. Fun's more important than immersion, but I want to tell a story. I've been playing in this Dungeon of the Mad Mage campaign for 3 years, and the way that we've had over those 3 years had 30 people drop in for a couple sessions, 1 or 2 sessions, sometimes 4 or 5 sessions, and then bounce. And the way that the Dungeon Master handles it, I thought was very clever. He's framed this campaign like it is an interdimensional TV show. And the adventurers are contestants on the TV show. And so he would often, like, early sessions would begin and end the session with like commercials, that you would see between scenes and stuff. And then if somebody wasn't there for a session, at the beginning of the next session, he would just say, Balthazar disappears in a puff of pink smoke. Because they were bad for ratings, so they're being moved out and testing anew. And it's silly, but we all buy it. And it works completely well. People can pop in and out of existence with no problem. Somebody's got to go to the dentist in the middle of a session. Pink dust. They come back from the dentist and they want to continue playing. Pink dust. And like everyone agrees that we're okay with this, and it works just fine. So what do you guys think about how do you deal with it in the fiction when a player isn't there?
Yeah, I had a friend of mine who DMs, and one of the few people I've got a chance to play with, right? Because I'm always DMing. Does similar to what Phil says in the chat, right? It's just like an arcade game. The DM I used to play with would compare it to Final Fantasy, where they just kind of like characters just kind of stack up on each other and disappear. But yeah, so you just kind of treat it like like an arcade game. And that's a simple explanation, and everybody just gets over it. Me personally, I just kind of trust the process. If there's an obvious explanation, like last session, the heroes left town to head towards the dungeon, right? That's kind of a common ending point of the session, right? Or the players decide, okay, next session we're going to go here, right? So there's an obvious travel scene, right? Then the explanation is simply, well, that person stayed behind for some reason. Oftentimes, though, I end on cliffhangers, and then it's kind of harder to explain where that character went, right? But usually, if you just trust the process and go ahead and play the session, by the next session, when that player shows up, there seems to be an obvious point in the story where that character could have dropped off, right? So say we do end on the cliffhanger. So we come back in the next session to the action scene, the fight, right? then we just assume that person got taken out early in the fight, right? They got bonked on the head and they got, they went down early in the fight. Then we play out the rest of the session, and then there's an obvious point where like that character could have branched off. When you got to the second level of the dungeon, maybe that character stayed on the first level to guard the stairs down into the second level, right? Something like that. It doesn't have to be complicated, but usually it shows up. Like, it's not that hard if, like I said, if you just trust the process.
Yeah, I like that a lot. Oftentimes it's easier to see looking back where the opportunity was because you have that much more content to like fit it into too. And I like the magic of the storytelling and the open-endedness of it all, and like there's some force makes it all make sense, and maybe it's just the human imagination. I don't know. Oh, I can't click on things. Dang. I'm a guest here, folks. But the Mr. Welch comment there. This is one of my go-tos of just abstract and goofy. I do like the idea of having like a inventory item because it's like a token. Like, all right, who has the most corn dogs here? I hate you. Prioritize game night. But if there isn't an obvious out, I will just simply acknowledge that. And if the players want to provide a story, cool, fine. Sometimes I used to bend over backwards to make it make sense in the moment that it was happening. And then by the time I got to Brad's point, I experience regret sometimes of like, oh, we like now I have to undo that essentially because they're back the next week. I also really like Jim's DM framing it as like, hey, this is just a show, because that kind of puts into focus like, hey, this is fun and entertaining, and your characters are here to do the entertaining thing. Like, get those ratings up. We're going into sweeps week. Like, stop sitting at the doorway debating how to do this for an hour and a half. Make cool story happen now. Come on, the audience is watching. We're the audience. Let's go. I like that a lot. A lot.
Well, and that's something to consider. Like, moving forward, if you like any of these ideas that we're throwing out there, when you start your next campaign, think of a campaign setting, device, right, that allows players to come and go, right? All the characters are part of a guild, and that guild has, some sort of like teleportation device that's run by the guild master. So the guild master is able to, plug and play different members of the guild when needed. Like, that's just one idea, right? So you could just come up with a setting idea that, when you make up your new campaign setting, right?
Here's a question. Say you're in the middle of a very tense combat and a player has to leave the table. What do you do with their PC in combat?
Typically, for me, they just fade into the background. The assumption is that the character's still there somewhere, but they faded into the background. And if you need something, right? Like somebody goes down, right, and gets injured, and there's not enough resources to bring them back up right away, but the party wants to chase the monster into the next room. Then you can explain, okay, so-and-so who's in the background is now babysitting the unconscious character while the rest of the party chases the monster into the next room, right? And that's another example of just trust the story and let it unfold. So usually if they have to like get up and leave in the middle of session, then that character, like I said, is just in the shadows somewhere. Or like, again, another suggestion from Mr. Welch, do the Scooby-Doo rotating wall gag. And then you can bring that character back at just the right moment. They dipped into a secret passage, and then when it's time for your cliffhanger, that character pops out of another secret passage with a new map, right?
Yeah, sometimes if I can't find a clever answer to something, I reach for the dumbest thing I can find. And that has served me very well as a dungeon master.
Yeah.
I think that's a
Absolutely.
good life rule, Ryan.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Don't be mad at me. That has also
Um,
served me well until it didn't.
yeah, I'm on board with Twin still here. The fun and clarity outweighs immersion. And then like Mike said here before, if there's an extended time, then work it into the fiction,
Mhm.
and that makes sense. You know, if somebody's going to be. I There was one campaign I only played in that campaign for like 2 sessions because I didn't really jibe with those guys. But there was one thing they did, or no, I played in a session and I missed one, and then I came back for another one. And the thing they did was that if you missed a session, they said that your PC went back to town to get drunk, and it was custom that they would make fun of you when you came back. They were like, "Where'd you go? We had a big battle while you were sleeping off the drunk." I didn't really jibe with that. I was like, "Okay, that's you don't need to give me shit in game for stuff I did in real world. That doesn't feel fair."
Yeah. One other thing I've done, especially like when a player has to leave in the middle of a session, and I've already set the scene, right? Like, they're like, all right, we're gonna storm the room, and I put out all the miniatures on the table, and we're ready to battle. So like the action economy is already set because I put down 6 hobgoblins, 2 bugbears, and half a dozen goblins, right? Um, and now that this player has emergency phone call, has to dip out, what do you do? Because that lack of one player in that scenario could make the encounter pretty deadly because they're severely outnumbered. Is to say that character, does some sort of grand distraction, and half the hobgoblins and half the goblins chase that character off, right? Chase after that character. And then you can switch from big battle style combat to a waves of monsters style combat, right?
Mm.
Where the players fight the first wave, and of course the heroic distracting character who's running around the dungeon leading half the goblins on a wild goose chase pops back in, and now you got your second wave of monsters.
Yeah, it's funny. Just the other night, I ended a session early, which I'm comfortable doing, but I'm way more way more likely to go long, just the way things happen. But I ended early because I was like, all right, I wasn't sure what you guys were gonna do, and we're at a moment now where like this is gonna be a war. Like this could be 2 hours of combat now. So we're not gonna do that. We'll hang out for a little bit. And then one of my buddies was like, cool, I'm not here next week. And I was like, gosh, like, no, the druid's not here, whatever. You got the AoE and the heals. But it's fine. Like I got moves. I can adjust the encounter balance. And there's a new player at the table, and he's like, "Oh, would you be like, we just run his character or something?" I was like, "No, absolutely not, because there's no way." I don't want anyone worrying about running a high level druid that they've never run before. That's going to grind this session to a halt. Two, like this person has incredible plot armor now, or they don't, and they could die without their player at the table, and
Right.
neither one of those is remotely appealing to me. So yeah, we'll fix it in the back end, or we'll just pretend it never happened. Because I'm a huge advocate for immersion, continuity. Like I do put in a lot of effort in my prep and design to like make things make sense internally. When external factors from like the other dimension of real life intervene, then no, then it's off. Like if something happens in real life, someone gets a phone call, has a dentist appointment, the world of the game does not have to comport to that at all. Like that exists on a different dimension. So yeah, people can pop in and out of existence. We can hand wave it. We can joke about it. We can make it make sense when it needs to. But it's funny. I want to talk about the flip side of this. The guest star. You said you had 30 people come and go in a campaign. I kind of enjoy that.
Just real quick before we get to the guest star thing, almost perfect timing. My friend Jay just popped into the chat. He's the one I was just telling you guys about with the Final Fantasy style explanation. So I don't make this stuff up. I do actually have friends.
I don't believe you. That's a bot.
Well, I just lost $10. Great.
Yeah,
So
I'm not
here's-
paying. I'm still not convinced.
I've got a quick story about a game I was in several years ago. I was playing, not running, where a player stepped away and we were in combat, and the DM had another player run his PC. This is what happened. That other player took that PC, went to make an attack, rolled a natural 1 on the attack. And in that campaign, they had crit fail and crit success tables. Took forever. It was annoying as hell. But so he rolled a crit fail. So he rolled a D100. He rolled a 100 on the crit fail table, which is decapitation.
Gosh.
Mhm.
So this guy stepped away to go like get his food or something. He was only gone like 45 minutes. And the time he was gone, he decapitated himself. Another player decapitated that PC. And the DM didn't retcon it.
Oh,
He
gosh.
was like, that's what happened. So don't kill a PC when there are players down at the table.
I'd be
No.
sus that was on purpose. That sounds like fudging. It's like,
That
all
I
right, you want
learned
to get
a
your
lot
pizza?
of what
You're
not
dead.
to do from that dungeon master. He was a great example. I've talked about him in several of my videos.
That's great.
I hope he's not watching.
It sounds like he doesn't watch a lot of advice.
Probably not. Good point.
so the whole guest star question, right?
Hmm.
That Ryan asked. Do you have a specific answer to that, Jim?
What about I talked about how there were a bunch of people that dropped in and out of the campaign. I didn't get the question.
Well, that's like, yeah, like people popping in and like people popping into existence, right? Like I've had some great opportunities playing like essentially an NPC when you know you're in a campaign for a little bit, right? This is where guest star, I guess, is kind of like a weird word to throw out there, but that's how I like view it. Like I really enjoy just like plotting with the dungeon master. It's like, yo, tell me what you need me to do. Like I have legit like rolled in and demonstrated like, okay, cool. You know all these goblins that you're killing? They know stuff. I'm gonna put one in a headlock and noogie him until he tells us. And hey, plot hooks fall out, and you guys know what to do next. Like, just it doesn't always have to be as like tutorial as that. It can be much more serving the drama. But like, woo, I love doing that. I love a short little like, here's my stint, blaze of glory, or right up into the sunset. I'm out. Thank you, everybody. Good night.
Yeah, across this 3-year campaign, I've played a few PCs that were just for a short time. I was just like, hey, DM, I just thought of a build. Can I swap out this PC for a little while? And then because of the magic of the way the show works, pink dust, or here's a new character. 3 sessions later, okay, I feel like I've played this character enough. Now I want to bring back my old guy. It's very, fun over immersion. Fun is more important. I think we're ready to move on. Or do you guys have more to say about player absences in the fiction?
No, I think we covered that pretty well.
Cool. All right, so more news. There has been a Dungeons and Dragons video game announced, and that's mostly what we know about it. Video game developer Giant Skull. The other thing we know, Stig Asmussen is involved with it, and he was the game director for Jedi Survivor and Fallen Order and God of War 3. And so all I can really say is that, I don't know, Fallen Order and Survivor were respectful of the source material and good with the source material. So maybe that's a promising sign. Also, we the last 2 D&D video games we got were Baldur's Gate 3 and Dark Alliance. One is maybe the best video game of all time, and the other one was a forgettable piece of crap that they clearly shunted out to try to make money.
Yeah. Well, and one was made by an outside studio, and one was made in house, right? The Dark Alliance made in house?
I think it was.
Pretty sure it was. And because that has seemed to be the trend, that the stuff made in house by WotC, Hasbro, not as impressive as the stuff that's licensed out.
Yeah.
I'm not a hardcore video game guy, so um, I could be wrong on that, but that's been my impression over like the last 10 years.
Yeah. I got Dark Alliance out of the bargain bin at the GameStop for like $7. I played it for an hour and it was broken. My 6-year-old son at the time enjoyed it.
The Twin Steel saying the OG Dark Alliance were great. Those were fantastic games.
Oh yeah, I don't know. This came out around pandemic time, I think.
Yeah, I know the one you were talking about that was terrible, but
Yeah.
Twin Steel's mentioning the ones that came out like on, I think they were Xbox and PS2 games. I played them on Xbox, the original Dark Alliance games. There was 2 of them. They were fantastic.
All I know is Untitled D&D Project future video game is going to be compared to Baldur's Gate 3, and that's some big shoes to fill.
Well, if it even comes out, because that's the other thing about the in-house D&D games, right? Is like a lot of them have gotten canceled. They never they get announced, and then 6 months, year later, there you go.
Yeah. Say less, fam. All right, we don't really have a lot to say about this, so
Can I read that last sentence if that's still screen shareable? If you still have that up, because man, this is corporate nonsense, huh? World building and storytelling is in our DNA, and this collaboration reflects our evolution and commitment to our playing to win strategy, which sounds like an oxymoron. Building a stronger presence in digital play. We look forward to revealing more about this brand new Dungeons and Dragons game in the future. The hell's a playing to win strategy?
I don't know,
In
but
your collaboration.
I'm sure that there's some guy at WotC with a title called Brand Manager or something, and coming up with the playing to win was one of his big projects, and he was like, "We're gonna play to win," and everyone went, "Ooh, I like the sound of that. Let's adopt that philosophy."
That's on a banner that has those old the printer. What was that? What was it? The DOS Matrix printers. Yeah. Just like 12 of those sheets.
And it gets lighter near the end of the sentence.
Yeah, I'm sure the play to win strategy is explained in some shareholder meeting minutes.
Yeah. All right, so moving on. Hey, earlier this week,
I just read Mr. Welch's last comment. That's fantastic.
Would you like to play a game? So earlier this week, I ran a session 0 for these 2 guys, plus another one of our friends who's not here. And in order to get it was a session 0 for Daggerheart. I'm going to start running Daggerheart for these guys. And in the session 0, I wanted to give them the Daggerheartiest experience that I could. So we used Daggerheart's session 0 framework, which is called CATS, which is concept, aim, tone, and subject. And so the concept is the world. The aim is what you want to accomplish throughout the campaign. The tone is the kinds of genre hallmarks that you're looking for. And then subject are the sort of safety tool kind of things you don't do or don't want to see in the game. So we did this. What did you guys think?
It went really well. I thought it was very smooth. I don't know how much of it is the specific CATS, process, or if it was just Jim's good at his job.
Well, the CATS part took us about like 45 minutes of the session 0.
Yeah,
it wasn't the whole thing. It was just part of it.
But it was useful, right? Like again, I mean, I don't know how much of it is that this actual process is great, or if it's just that we're all on the same page because we know each other well. But yeah, it went really well. So it seems like a good guideline to use as a session 0.
I see as someone who has not played it yet and is always very careful about talking about games I haven't like deeply experienced. It seems like Daggerheart's main feature is that collaborative thing that playing to win doesn't quite make sense next to. But the idea that compared to I mean, Dungeons and Dragons, as it's typically played, and most TTRPGs, and there's plenty of exceptions to that, but the player has more input, more power generally in the storytelling at the table than in other games. It's kind of cooked into the game system itself, which part of me feels like is highly exploitable for a certain type of player. So it makes systems like this more important, frameworks like this at the baseline important. And if we're going to be collaborating so deeply in the gameplay, it makes sense to kind of front load that, to all be on the same page about what kind of, it's a good idea anyway, but especially when I'm contributing to the story so much more. I'm much more active in the participation of it all than in a standard 5e, especially short campaign. It's good to make sure that we're all pulling in the same direction. And it's not like Jim is like, this is my world, here's the map. Like, it's not just like we didn't play Microscope, we didn't start from zero. Like, Jim definitely did a ton of world building, and we sat down and figured out, okay, where in this world, who are we, what are we trying to do, what kind of story is this, especially considering we want to stick the landing, this month. So I'm suspicious of the acronym still, especially in a game which has so many different animal themed races. Spoiler, I'm a monkey, but I liked it. I liked it a lot.
Yeah. The other thing about Daggerheart, which is, I think, is good design, is the frame aspect, right? They have these frames built into the core rulebook to kind of start with the concept, right? So you're not just doing this CATS model completely on the fly with, like Ryan was saying, without any sort of, preparation ahead of time. Like, the game master can pick which frame they want to use, and that starts that concept step. And then you can expand from the game master's idea and why the game master chose the frame that they chose, right? So I think this CATS Session 0 system goes hand in hand with the frame system. And that's just seems to be a constant thread that I keep finding in Daggerheart, is they have, interesting pieces, but then after a little bit of reading or, tinkering, you realize, oh, this piece goes really well with that piece, and that goes really well with this piece over here, right? And that just seems to be the thing that keeps impressing me about Daggerheart, is I keep running into that over and over again, that it all fits together well.
I've been, I should have screenshotted this, but I was having a discussion with someone online the other day about the GM advice in Daggerheart. And this person was saying, I feel like Daggerheart is giving me a hammer and some nails and saying, build a barn. And I was thinking about that, and then after I read that comment, I went and I read the whole GM advice section in Daggerheart, and then I went and read basically the DM advice section in the Dungeon Master's Guide, and they say almost exactly the same things. Like, the GM advice for Daggerheart is pretty much the same advice for 5e. It's like, don't plan too far ahead, play to find out what happens, be a fan of the players. It's all the same stuff.
Right.
So it's really, from behind the screen, it's mostly the same experience. There's no reason you can't take Curse of Strahd and run it in Daggerheart. You can run keyed locations. It's all, I don't know, it's very interoperable, and I feel like I feel like you could come from either world, and my opinions about Daggerheart being bad for new GMs are softening. I am coming around that I think it might be actually a pretty good system to start with. But I'll never be able to say, because I can't start with Daggerheart. It's impossible for me to do that. I can't say,
Yeah. Yeah, I think one thing that makes Dungeons and Dragons, Shadowdark, OSE, all that, easy starting point is the dungeon itself, right? The keyed room dungeon at levels 1 through 3 is a very manageable way to run a game. And I think that's the easiest way to get started. I've made videos about that. And I think that is, honestly, I think that's one of the reasons why Dungeons and Dragons became as popular as it did. because the dungeon format, that keyed room format, makes it very easy to run a game. And I don't think, it's hard to be a DM really started until, around third edition and continued through fourth and fifth edition, when the game started to move further and further away from simple dungeon crawling and more into player options and player choices and elaborate character design, right? That really grew out of late second edition into third edition, and it just has continued ever since. I think at its core, Dungeons and Dragons is dungeon crawling, and dungeon crawling is pretty simple and straightforward to run. So, conversely, if Daggerheart, these tools make it easier to do narrative exploration, overland travel and adventure style storytelling well, and new DMs can come and learn that way, right? That's an impressive feat in my book.
Twin Steel's comment here. I think about this often, and if Landlocked Warlocks can ever get a government grant, we'll study this. I'd be really curious to study people who learned how to game master through 5e versus people who learned how to game master through Honey Heist or Monster of the Week or much simpler systems, and to see what kind of game master they become after a certain period of time. Who's really good at tabletop role playing games that's never done it before? Improv people.
Mm.
Like, you take an improv person and say, here's the rules, they're gonna get it.
Yeah.
You yes and have fun, support other people at the table, right? Like, that's how you're a good player. So I don't know. I'm really curious to see like what influence on someone's DMing style coming from a rules dense system versus a rules light system. Like, do you come to it from the story first, or do you come to it from the improv versus the rules? I don't know. I'm curious.
Yeah. I do actually have a friend of mine who's a professor and does research on gaming. And it's now summertime, so he's not, in session. Maybe I could get him to come on the show.
Or hook us up with some grant money if he knows how we can get a little of that. Daddy needs a new car. Let's get some grant money.
I in the new Daggerheart era, I've been seeing it as like almost cultural. Like the chafing I've had with improv people, theater kids coming to my table is that they are super good, but they don't know where the lines are yet. And as a dungeon master, it's like, like, no, like that is actually a funny thing for the NPC to say, but you're in charge of your character. I need him to say something else and Daggerheart breaks that, or at least draws that line somewhere else, or makes that line much more permeable, it seems, in certain circumstances. I think this is what a lot of people are experiencing the friction of. And it's actually potentially making it easier on the dungeon master because it's putting more creative necessity into the player's hands. Like, theoretically, it's going to be more collaborative, which is amazing at certain kinds of tables and is highly exploitable and the opposite of asshole proof for other tables. So I think it's going to be a cultural distinction more than, I mean, it's in the game mechanics too, but I think someone who comes in from Daggerheart, right? Because I think there will be those people. There are people who've watched Critical Role who haven't played D&D, and maybe these people exist in the future, right? Someone's going to come in through Daggerheart. They're going to expect to be a little more collaborative in the world building side of it than someone who's sitting down at Adventures League with like, okay, this is a canon experience that's happening and you're a Harper, and it's not as cut and dry as I just made it sound. Like, Daggerheart isn't just romper room to tell me what's happening. Like, there's a lot of crunch there too. but I am curious. People who start with a more narrative focus, are they going to adapt well to letting go of some of that focus? And now you have players who are way more engaged. Where I think the opposite problem is more prevalent today, where the dungeon master is doing all of the things, and the players are showing up, and maybe made a character, and maybe have an inkling of what that character does.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see if Daggerheart has the staying power. We've talked about that potential staying power, right? If it comes to realize that staying power and, you know, ends up in that like top tier, obviously D&D is going to stay at the top. We know that, right? But if it ends up there hanging in there with Pathfinder as like contender for like second most popular game, it could have a significant cultural impact. I mean, Critical Role, I think, has already had a cultural impact on the hobby for sure. And it'll be interesting to see how games evolve, right? If Daggerheart stays around, because it does play significantly different than D&D, right? There's plenty of similarities because I mean, role-playing games are role-playing games, but I think there's enough difference in Daggerheart with Ryan's point that he just made, that we could see kind of a cultural shift in the ways games are played.
Could be. I think I personally, I think the quality of the upcoming new starter set is going to be a very big tentpole moment, and will either drive a lot of new people into the Dungeons and Dragons hobby or into other games. And so that's going to be a big one. Also, if Critical Role decides to use Daggerheart full time for Campaign 4, which I don't think they're going to do, they're going to go back to 5e, and I think that's a mistake.
Is there like newish evidence for that, or that's just
There's
vibes?
they're currently running an 8-episode Daggerheart arc, and then so we won't know till probably end of the summer.
It's so, I don't know. This might be naive on my part because I am very like rah community as much as I rail against the corporate interests. Maybe people don't realize that I am, spending much more of my time trying to like collaborate with people. But I think a successful D&D starter set actually might equate to more people ending up playing Daggerheart eventually, and vice versa. I think a more healthy like Daggerheart ecosystem brings in more people. Like I think as much as we don't love D&D being this like megalithic cruise ship, it's creating a wake that a lot of other games can ride in on. Would those games have more success if there wasn't one giant pillar? Maybe, but like a lot of the people who have this their favorite indie game that you've never heard of started playing D&D, and maybe it was decades ago instead of years ago or months ago, but that's the deal. Like D&D is the cultural Kleenex brand name set for games like this. So I think even if you hate Hasbro, I think a successful D&D is good for your TTRPG of choice.
Yeah. Well, another thing too is I do think the community has to take some responsibility for building the hobby as well. And that's something the wargaming hobby has been working to accept over like the last 5 to 10 years, is that if you want this hobby to really grow, you can't depend on a company to do it for you, right? Like, so now like the common advice in wargaming is pick up one of the smaller games, buy 2 armies, and invite your friend. Like, you go ahead and build 2 armies, so when you invite your friend to play, you just, it's easy for them to get in, right? They call it being an ambassador for the hobby, right? That's a new phrase that's been thrown out in wargaming over the last 5 to 10 years. And you know, I mean, YouTube comments are YouTube comments, but you know, you see a lot of like, you know, the edition wars, the arrogance, talking crap about, well, if you play this game, you know, you're a moron, or you play that game, you don't really understand gaming, right? There's a lot of that, you know, we talked about it before, like this kind of weird loyalty to your favorite game, and that comes and then ends up coming across in the community as, if you're not playing the game I like, then you're either dumb or you're ignorant. You don't know enough yet. You'll learn. You know, and I think that attitude really, really is a drain on the hobby.
And you wonder why people don't want to come over and play with you. Like, it sounds like a bad time. Hey, I was recently reminded, I had a dude make a 90-minute takedown video on me, and he said there's only 300 real role players in the world. And obviously he counted himself among that number. And it's like, wow, dude, cool, cool. Yeah, I got thousands of options. And when I meet one that looks like you, I say no thank you and go somewhere else. Like, I'm not limited to 299 other people who think exactly the way I think. Anyway,
300 role players. That's that. We're at the end of the show. We can rant now. I hate this whole 4D role playing thing. It's so stupid. Just stupid. The idea that you can't talk out of character. So we're sitting at a table, and the DM is in character, and the DM says something to me, and when the DM says the important information, my phone buzzes, and I miss it. So then I have to ask that NPC in character to repeat what they said. Then the NPC repeats what they say, and that time a bird hits the window, and I don't hear it. Do I have to ask that NPC to repeat it 3? Like, how do you not include the real world? It's bonkers. I don't understand it at all. And it would be fine if they were cool about it, but they're like, we're 4D superior. That's the part that gets me.
Yeah, hey, it's a game. I'm here to have a good time and like socialize with people.
Yeah, I mean, I'm all about like, play how you want to play, right? If you want to play gritty dungeon crawl, old school style, and grind through 10 characters in a 5-session, game, more power to you, right? If you want to like be super role play heavy and be as theater kid as you want to be, go for it. That's have fun at the table the way you want to have fun at the table. I support that, right?
Yeah.
But don't drag other people down and like try to like gatekeep the hobby or shit on people's fun, right? Because it gets in the way.
And Twin Steel, yes, you know exactly who I'm talking about. So moving on, that's all we had to talk about. We talked real fast today. So I guess we can wrap up the show. Unfortunately, we did allow some time to talk about Chapter 2 of the 2024 Dungeon Master's Guide, but unfortunately the app where my notes were crashed, so we're not going to be able to, even though we have time, we're not going to be able to get to that because my notes are all gone, so I'm not prepared to talk about Chapter 2 of the 2024 Dungeon Master's Guide. Hey-o.
Yeah.
That made
Welch
me
is
very
roasting
happy.
you, Ryan.
And the other guy. It was a 15-minute video that he commented on for 90 minutes. It was pretty impressive. But also, that's how that dude spent his time.
You want to hear my impression? We don't have to say who it is, but here's my impression. Look at these guys. Laughing it up. Having a great time. That's not role-playing.
So it did this feels weird to say, but I was at dinner with a friend and I was like, yeah, I have a nemesis. Actually, no, I had a nemesis. He's dead now. And like, it's not a lot of opportunities to say that in life. Feels weird. I didn't choose it. That came upon me, but that's the deal. I used to have a nemesis, but now he's dead. Sorry, not sorry.
Mike, this is a valid point. I was being harsh.
It's cool. Go do that. I tried, like we tried to do that for a weekend. It's awesome. But then I had to pee. And then I got hungry. Like life intervenes.
Yeah.
Hamlet. That's funny. All right. So I think we're gonna wrap it up unless anybody has any burning desires to add anything that they didn't get to say earlier in the show.
Just play more role-playing games.
Play more role-playing games. And remember our official policy, times are changing. The wheel always turns. Play more games. Fun over immersion. And be nice to people. Be nice to people.
I think you just summed up the whole 90-minute show. And
there we go. This could have been an email.
Hey, there you go.
Glenn would have done it in 5.
All right, everyone. We'll see you later.